Guruneti linatumika kwa Kware. Ilipolipuka, mimi nikainuliwa juu, huyu mama kainuliwa juu, tukajipata tumelaliana in the new year.
Why do you want to suicide yourself?
Mimi hakuna pale nilitaka kujisuicide.
Na kufungua mheshimiwa nikiwasha, kumbe ilikuwa ni nuclear bomb mheshimiwa. Sikujua huyu nani mwindi amenihusia vitu ambaye it's not legit mheshimiwa.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with our music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
The Kenya National Youth Service will conduct a nationwide recruitment drive for male and female NYS volunteers from Monday the 10th of February 2025 to Saturday the 15th of February 2025. Persons wishing to be enlisted must meet the following conditions: be a Kenyan citizen and resident of the respective sub-county of recruitment, be between the ages of 18 and 24, have a mean grade of D plain and above in KCSE, produce original and photocopies of their national ID and academic certificates, must have a certificate of good conduct, be ready to undergo a medical checkup during and after recruitment, be prepared to undergo rigorous physical training, and be prepared to give voluntary service to the nation in any part of Kenya. Recruitment exercise commences at 800 hours in all recruitment centers. Successful candidates will report for the NYS paramilitary course at the respective NYS college on the dates and time on their calling letters. For further information, visit the NYS website www.nys.go.ke. NYS, huduma kwa taifa.
Wiki hii kwenye mkulima tutajifunza kuhusu nzi chuma.
I love BSF kwa sababu it's one small insect but inakuja ku revolutionize kila kitu. By the way, it's therapeutical and iko kwa mkono yako hapo nasikia vizuri sana. Haiwezi kuuma, haiwezi fanya chochote. It's how we see things. Na tubadilishe majamo yetu hapa hivi. Tuambie tu sio kubet kila saa. Let's make our hands dirty and we change our lives.
Kisha tuangazie mitambo kadha wa kadha ya kuhifadhi vyakula na kuongeza dhamana. Usikose kujumuika nami siku ya Jumamosi saa 10:30 upate mseto kamili wa kilimo.
Good evening, welcome to Prime Edition. I am Cynthia Nyamai. Now tonight, we follow up on President's tour in Garissa, and in business, Tech One is back, and tonight we will be talking about smart homes. And in sports, the Rugby Safari 7 dates with all the details for you. But first, let's have the highlights.
Na pale mbeleni tumekuwa tukiweka pesa ya serikali kwa chai, tunaweka kwa hawa, tunaweka kwa mahindi, tunaweka kwa sukari. Nimesema mwaka huu tunaweka pesa ya serikali kwa ng'ombe na mifugo yetu vile vile.
President's third day in Northeastern. Ruto tells of those criticizing ongoing livestock vaccination drive. President Kagame accuses Kenya's retired president Uhuru Kenyatta of being overbearing in the DRC peace processes. Uhuru answers him back. Anti-graft agency EACC raids Bomet Governor Hilary Bachok's residence and arrests him over 1.5 billion shillings paid for non-existent projects. And senators vow to shoot down new county revenue formula, claiming it favors northern Kenya counties. Lucy Maura is our sign language interpreter. Remember, we would love to hear from you. You can send us your comments and feedback on our social media pages. That is KBC Channel 1 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and also on my pages. That is Cynthia Nyamai. Now, President William Ruto has told off his critics over the move by administration to vaccinate 22 million livestock in the country and other key development programs the government is undertaking. And speaking after launching a catalogue of projects in Garissa County, the head of state defended the vaccination exercise that it's aimed at improving the quality of livestock products in readiness for the international markets. The president noting that 2027 politics is not the main priority of the current administration, which he said is focused on addressing challenges facing Kenyans.
Day 3 of his 4-day development tour in northeastern region. The president, alongside his deputy Professor Kithure Kindiki, a number of cabinet secretaries and area governor Nadhif Jama, among other local leaders, pitched camp in Garissa Township, where several key projects were launched. It is here where the head of state defended the Ministry of Agriculture drive to vaccinate 22 million animals across the country.
Na wewe umekuwa ukichanja ng'ombe yako miaka hii yote. Alafu mtu akuja hapa na Kiingereza na Kiswahili kingine akuambia ati usichanje ng'ombe yako. Ati kuna mtu mwingine sijui anaitwa Bill Gates sijui nani. Bill Gates ako wapi hapa Garissa? Kuna Bill Gates hapa Garissa? Si ng'ombe ni ng'ombe yetu. Si hawa madaktari ni madaktari wetu. Si dawa tumetoa hapa Kabete. Sasa Bill Gates anaingilia wapi hapa ndani?
The president stated that the drive aims at boosting the quality of livestock production in readiness for the international market.
Na pale mbeleni tumekuwa tukiweka pesa ya serikali kwa chai, tunaweka kwa hawa, tunaweka kwa mahindi, tunaweka kwa sukari. Nimesema mwaka huu tunaweka pesa ya serikali kwa ng'ombe na mifugo yetu vile vile.
Ruto said 2027 politics is not part of their preoccupation for now.
Na wale viongozi wengine wadogo wakora wengine wanasema ati wanataka kutupagua. Mimi nimewaambia mambo ya ukabila, mambo ya chuki, mambo ya kugawanya wa Kenya haitafaulu katika Kenya hii.
There are people who do not believe in the unity of Kenya. They believe that it is only one side against another side. Your Excellency, we want to support your call for the unity of our country.
Leaders accompanying the head of state defended the government's development program.
Wote wa Northeastern, Isiolo, Marsabit, Turkana, uko wa Masaini na Samburu na Pokot, sisi tutapigia Mheshimiwa William Ruto.
Nyingine ambaye inapiga kule kelele ni team ya ukabila na team ambaye inataka nchi hii endelee ikinyanyasa watu wengine. Sisi tumekataa.
Hii team inaongozwa na rais wetu. Ni team ambayo inaweka Kenya pamoja. This is the team that unites the country. Ile team ingine ya yule mzee ameshindwa na kazi na bunge wamewamfukuza na wengine ambao hawawezi kazi, ni team ambao ina divide taifa letu.
During the tour, the president reopened the immigration's office in Garissa County that was closed down in 2014 following spate of attacks in the region.
Mambo yenu ya passport mtapata hapa. Na nimemwambia watu wa immigration ili tusiwe na msongamano ya watu wanaenda kwa maombi. Nimewaambia watoe green channel ya wale watu wanaenda haji wasisumbuliwe kwa airport.
The national government will also pump 700 million shillings towards the modernization of the Garissa airstrip in a joint project being undertaken with the county government. The president is expected to conclude his northeastern tour on Friday in Isiolo County. Abdiaziz Hashim for Prime Edition.
Retired President Uhuru Kenyatta now claims that the Nairobi peace process into the DRC conflict, which he facilitated, was sidelined. Appearing to respond to criticism from Rwanda President Paul Kagame that he was overbearing, Uhuru claimed the process not only faced logistical headwinds, but was equally being sabotaged.
An extraordinary summit of the East African Community Heads of State convened last week by President William Ruto, the chairperson of the East African Community, saw Rwanda President Paul Kagame accuse former President Uhuru Kenyatta and Angola President João Lourenço of being overbearing in the DRC peace processes they led.
Even here, maybe you will help me understand what all this means. The processes became an end in themselves, and the people leading these processes became more important than the results of the processes. The Nairobi process became a Uhuru process. Then the Rwanda process, it's like you can't say anything that will displease President Lourenço.
Uhuru alleging sidelining of the Nairobi process, which he was facilitating.
The lack of political momentum, coupled with renewed hostilities in North Kivu and South Kivu, has significantly undermined the progress made between the year 2022 and 2023. The M23, once subject to a cease agreement, has now regained control over key towns, including Goma, and fighting has once again escalated across the region.
Though he failed to give specifics on the sidelining, Uhuru claims DRC President Felix Tshisekedi's re-election and the consequent hostilities that led to the expulsion of the East African Community Regional Force from eastern DRC served to slow the process, almost grinding it to a halt.
The shift resulted in the slowing down of the Nairobi peace process and, unfortunately, at the same time, a political impasse resulted in the withdrawal of the Kenya forces from the ECRAF. This suspension disrupted the momentum of the peace process, leading to a slowing down of the peace negotiations and a breakdown in military cooperation and ultimately a resurgence of fighting in the region.
Uhuru has, however, expressed commitment to resume his duties, asserting that the Nairobi and the Luanda efforts are the only solution to the ongoing DRC conflict.
The Nairobi peace process, though temporarily sidelined, remains a critical framework for dialogue and conflict resolution in the eastern DRC. The facilitator remains committed to finding pathways to peace in collaboration with the government of DRC, regional partners, and international stakeholders. However, the recent resurgence of hostilities highlights the urgent need for renewed political will, regional cooperation, and sustained support for peace efforts to avoid further deterioration of the security situation in DRC.
President William Ruto, who chairs the East African Community, and his Zimbabwean counterpart Emmerson Mnangagwa, who chairs the South African Development Community, have convened a joint summit of heads of state to discuss the conflict in eastern DRC this weekend. Uhuru has already submitted his report to the EAC, SADC, and the African Union. In the meantime, Prime Cabinet Secretary and CS Foreign and Diaspora Affairs Musalia Mudavadi has condemned remarks made by Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka over the DRC conflict, accusing Kenya of fueling the strife. Mudavadi says Kalonzo has trivialized the matter for his selfish political gains. John Jacob Curia, Prime Edition.
That's a story that we'll definitely be following up for you. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, that's the EACC, has launched an inquiry into allegations of conflict of interest and theft of public funds on Bomet Governor Hilary Bachok and 8 senior county officials. The investigation centers on fraudulent payment schemes involving 1.5 billion shillings for undeserved services and works. Bomet Governor Hilary Bachok was Thursday morning arrested by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission EACC, where he recorded a statement at EACC South Rift Regional Offices in Nakuru. The EACC operation, which took place in Nairobi and Bomet counties, also targeted 2 contractors allegedly involved in the scheme.
In a coordinated raid early Thursday morning, officers from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission EACC arrested Bomet Governor Hilary Bachok over allegations of conflict of interest and theft of public funds. EACC detectives then escorted the Bomet Governor to the Commission's South Rift Regional Offices in Nakuru to record a statement where the governor and several senior county officials are under investigation for allegations that they were involved in a fraudulent scheme that siphoned off 1.5 billion shillings in public funds. According to EACC, the money was allegedly paid to suppliers and contractors, some of whom are senior county employees, for works and services that were never rendered. The EACC also conducted similar operations at various premises in Nairobi, where it obtained crucial evidence to support the ongoing investigation. Ben Chumba, Prime Edition.
Senators have vowed to shoot down the new revenue sharing formula proposed by the Commission of Revenue Allocation that will see 31 counties lose over 10 billion shillings in favor of marginalized counties during a heated debate on the last day of the Senate midterm retreat in Naivasha. Majority of the senators termed the new proposal as defective, while a few benefiting from it and saying it was not a voice of reasoning. In the new formula set for consideration upon the resumption of the House new week, 7 counties, mainly in northern Kenya, will benefit from an extra 7 billion shilling in the 4th system, which is based on 4 parameters according to the Commission. During the session, the House will also be seeking to have the shared revenue increased from the current 385 to 407 billion shillings.
Implementation of the 4th basis, we have established what we are calling a stabilization factor. This is inbuilt in the formula. This is to ensure that no county gets less than what they were allocated in the previous year, which is this year of 2024-2025.
They are saying that should the national government divide with counties money such that the counties are given 417 billion, then all counties won't lose. It is a simple common sense discussion that if the national government adds counties money to 417 billion, no county will lose. So that increment is not as a function of the formula, but it's as a function of natural increment on the revenue that counties are getting.
If you say that you'll be rewarding Marsabit and Turkana because of big landmass, what happens to Kisumu because you have not yet taken care of the Lake Victoria? If you go to Mombasa, you should also include 2,000 nautical miles into the sea because that consists of the land for those coastal counties. So we find some of these new introduction as being unpalatable to most of the senators, and I'll say as a senator of the Republic of Kenya, I'll not preside and vote for any formula that makes any county to lose money?
That you have just a few counties gaining, some of them gaining with a very wide margin of sometimes some of them over 1 billion, 1.7 billion. I think Mandera is gained about 1.7 billion, while the other counties, the majority of them are losing. So it will affect the delivery of services in the counties, and that is why, as the House that is mandated in protecting devolution and the counties, we cannot adopt such a revenue sharing basis.
Okay, look at number 3, that there were 425.
The Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, KUPPET, is demanding the immediate release of medical capitation funds by the National Treasury to guarantee teachers' ability to access health care services. Addressing the media in Nairobi on Thursday, KUPPET Acting Secretary General Moses Nthurima has claimed that their members cannot access services in the accredited hospitals due to an 11 billion shilling debt owing to delayed remittance of medical capitation.
6 months after agreeing on a return-to-work formula with the Teachers Service Commission, which ended their strike, teachers affiliated with the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, KUPPET, are a worried lot. According to KUPPET Acting Secretary General Moses Nthurima, many hospitals are withholding services or demanding out-of-pocket payments from teachers for health services.
So the last time the medical capitation was released by the Treasury was in September. After we had gone on strike, we don't intend to go back to where we were because that time they released the money to the Teacher Service Commission. But now for the last more than 6 months, there hasn't been any capitation to the Teacher Service Commission, the money that is supposed to go to the underwriter so that they can provide services.
The crisis, according to KUPPET, lies squarely at the door of the National Treasury, which has not remitted funds to the underwriter for 2 quarters.
So when the teachers the Treasury is delaying capitation, it's as if they are delaying teachers' salaries. So we urge them to move with speed to ensure that services, medical services for teachers are seamless, so that learners will also receive timely services in schools.
The union is now demanding for an urgent release of the funds by the National Treasury, warning that further delays will put teachers' health at risk. KUPPET has also warned the accredited hospitals against compromising services offered to teachers due to the ongoing crisis.
Teachers need to be treated with dignity by service providers. We are also saying that the service providers must take their work seriously so that the teachers will have received their due.
Joseph Wahungu for Prime Edition.
Well, KenGen did report a 79% increase in its first-year net profit, but shareholders will not be getting a dividend this time. I will be giving you all the details. That and much more coming up shortly after the break.
Shilingi 1,000. Toka kwa hiyo sanduku. Stoki. Oh. Kesho yangu mkuri. Rudisha hiyo pesa kwa sanduku namba 10.
Ongeza ifike 50.
Kwa nini?
Anataka ukule popcorn ukitizama runinga, sawa?
100,000 Kenya Inch TV. Thousand. Yes!
Nabii Stephen Juma ameandaa ibada ya kuvunja madhabahu ya kijamii. Usikose Jumapili hii. Utaratibu wa ibada ni kama ifuatavyo: saa 12 asubuhi, ibada ya kuombea wagonjwa. Kisha ibada ya kuvunja madhabahu ya kijamii itaanza mwendo wa saa 4 mchana. Jengeni madhabahu ya Mwenyezi Mungu. Kumbuka, kanisa lapatikana Komarok Stage 18, nyuma ya Rugby Petrol Station, kando ya Accurate Schools.
Welcome back. We do want to apologize for the transmission hitch, but we are going on with business and talking about a topic that someone asked last year, where we had a story on young entrepreneurs, and one of you, I can't remember the name, but one of the viewers did ask us to talk about technology for seamless business, and we do listen. So tonight in studio, I am joined by Patrick Lukasa. Thank you so much for joining us. He is the director of Odoo Kenya. I suspect I haven't pronounced your name right. You can correct me on air. What's the right pronunciation?
Lukusa.
Lukusa. Yes. Lukusa. Okay, thank you so much for joining us. I want us to talk about small businesses, medium and small medium enterprises in Kenya. We see that when it comes to adopting technology and even just going digital, it's still very low in Kenya. What could be causing this? What are the challenges that perhaps businesses are facing?
Sure. First, thanks for having me. When it comes to digital adoption, we talk about many things. If you look at WhatsApp, for example, mobile payment, in Kenya we are doing really amazing. But then there is more to it. If you talk about what in the industry of, for example, ERP software, then we know that there is a lot to do. For example, a lot of companies, as you said, are not using these modern tools to manage their businesses on a daily basis. But it has to do mostly with awareness. People do not know that they can use this system, which are affordable and which can really transform the way they do business in an efficient way. Another reason is mostly the price of it or the cost. People do think that it can be overly priced, which is not always the case. And one of the last things that I see is simply people also resisting to adopt the modernity. Some people may think that, okay, if we adopt it, we may lose our job, or it will be too transparent for us to be able to play around with the figures and so on. So all of this is contributing to SMEs not really adopting these tools, which are actually helping them to become more efficient.
Yes, and you've just mentioned a little bit about also pricing.
Yes.
And a lot of them are priced out of the ERP system. What remedies do we have for that? And I'd also love to hear your experience.
Sure. When it comes to pricing, we should look at it as an investment. An SME will typically invest into a plant to do production. When they do so, they look at it as an investment instead of a cost. But it's true that most ERP systems are usually traditionally made for big companies. But what makes the majority of the economy is those small companies, the small duka at the corner, the small production plant, and so on. So in terms of pricing, what really helps companies is to use and pay only what is useful for you. So when it comes to ERP systems, it's really important to work with a system that is modular, which means it is made as a sort of bricks that you can put together, or you can use independently only for what you need. You don't need to buy the whole package and only use 10%.
Yes.
That already can help with the pricing. Another thing that can really help is to make sure that you use something that can be utilized over the internet in the cloud. That way you don't need to invest into machinery or equipment. You can connect to it via your phone, via any device. It can be an Android device, Windows device, and so on. You can use all of the machines that you have. You don't need to have an industrial machine for that. So no extra equipment for it. These two are usually what will help with the pricing. If I want to talk just a little bit about what we are offering,
yes,
we have a pricing which is really as you go. You pay only for the number of people that you are empowering, because that is where we add value. If you are in a small company of 2 persons and all of the 2 are using the system, so it's the full company that is working in an efficient way. But if you have 100 employees and all of the 100 are empowered, that's why we are charging per the number of people that are using the system, and it is scalable, it is controllable, and it's also applies to small companies and big companies alike.
One of the interesting things about systems is you come to realize that a system is only as good as the people using it.
Totally.
How do we then prepare our staff? And to even make sure, you mentioned about just using 10%
Totally.
Of the system. How does one go about it?
It's true, you can have the best car if you don't know how to drive it, it's useless.
Yes.
So to prepare the staff for a good usage of the system, there are two things I believe that you can do. The first one is to pick a system that is user-friendly. You can give any amount of training. If the system is complex, like a cockpit of a plane, it will be difficult.
Yes.
So what we are doing is we provide people with a tool that is really intuitive. An example is, I'm pretty sure you didn't have to read the manual, the user guide of WhatsApp, did you? We want our tool to be as simple as that.
Wow.
Obviously, it's a business tool, so it will have a level of complexity, but we want people to acquire the tool today, start using it the next day. An SME survive based on the time. They are really time sensitive. They don't want to purchase something today, install it for 1 year, and only use it the next year.
Yes.
So the tool in itself will help with the adoption. The other thing, which is really important, is what we call the change management. So people, especially business owners, can have the great idea of implementing an ERP tool, but then they face resistance from that accountant that has been there for 20 years, simply because they don't want to start learning something again, or they see that it's going to disrupt the way they've been doing business. So you want to educate people to the benefits of this new tool, this new technology, why is it important, and how can it make your life enjoyable. For example, we work with a lot of accountants. If you don't know what accounting is, you can think it's a boring job, just encoding some data, pulling some reports, and so on. But it doesn't have to be that boring. It can be really enjoyable.
Yes.
We offer tools that allow you to automate a maximum of repetitive work so that you can focus on gaining really good insights, seeing how your turnover is evolving, comparing it with the previous years and so on. So even accountants can really enjoy the job which used to be very manual.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you convince, and you've used very interesting terms, even talking about accounting, that it doesn't have to be manual and so boring.
Yes.
But how do you interest businesses to actually get by a system, yet they're thinking, you know, they're just all about making profit, and what is it in for them? And it might even just make work a bit harder for them because staff has to be trained, especially for small businesses. How do you then show them that it will benefit their businesses and perhaps even increase their profit margin?
Totally. The key is to talk about the return on investment. As I said, you can look at it in two ways. Either you look at it as an expense, in which case I just pay and that's it, or as an investment. I put something, I put time, effort, and money, but in return I'm getting more than what I have invested in. And the good news is that we work a lot with business owners. They really understand the concept of return on investment. So what we simply do is to understand their needs, their requirements. We work like doctors. We try to see, okay, what are you facing in terms of challenges? How are you coping with it? Where can we add value? Once we understand that, we are in a position to advise people, to convince them on, okay, this can help you, for example, fix the bottleneck that you are having. If you are spending 2 hours a day to reconcile your invoices, and how much are you spending every month? But just imagine if you can automate this, how much time can you free that you can invest into thinking about your strategy, expanding into new territories and so on. And this sometimes can make the difference between surviving or going bankrupt the next day. Every company wants to work in an efficient way. And today we are empowering companies with tools that allow them not only to survive, but even to compete on the global stage with our counterparts in Asia or in Latin America and so on, from here in Nairobi.
One of the things that also people fear when it comes to technology is cyber threats. And also, how can a business also secure its data? What solutions do you have?
Yeah, first, the threats are many. They can be linked to the system or also to the human. The biggest threat is the human.
Yes.
Because when it comes to the system, we have all of the tried and tested mechanism. For example, if you go on your e-citizen account, you want to log in, you key in a password, and you get an OTP to verify. This is what we call multi-factor authentication. So we have a set of tools to make sure that we prevent hacking and all of the threats. But then the other part, which is huge, is to work with your team on the processes, on the training, so that they are aware of what are the risks. If I have a secure team, a secure tool, but I go with my laptop and I leave it at the cafe next door without locking it, someone can sneak into it, right? So we work both on the tool, but also on the processes to educate people as to what are the best practices to secure and safeguard your information, your data, and so on.
Yes. And looking at the age groups in business, in Kenya, we've been so big on young entrepreneurs getting into business. And looking at those age groups, who's likely, in your experience, going to embrace technology?
You're totally right. On this one, it's not cliche, it's real. We see that the younger people embrace technology really easily. They even go further. They can just go on the website, purchase a new tool without even talking to someone. When you go into people who are more senior, you really need to convince them. You can sit with them face to face, explain. And even after all of that, they will say, okay, wait, I'll go talk to my son or my friend so that they get advice before I can go ahead.
And when it comes to also just government services that have really gone digital, is there a way that government and the private sector can work seamlessly?
Sure. First, here in Kenya, the government has done a great job in digitizing its services to citizens and businesses alike. But there is still more that we can do. There are a lot of things that the government and the private sector can do, for example, in terms of public-private partnerships. Here in Kenya, for example, to develop e-identification, to facilitate the electronic payments and so on. When it comes to the world of ERP, because we are talking about it, we have some practical use cases that the government has been doing. If you know, here in Kenya as a business, if you are charging VAT, you need to not only collect the VAT, but also do a filing of that VAT in real time. This is what we call the e-TIMS. So the e-TIMS allows people who have, for example, an ERP system to do a real-time or near real-time filing or declaration of the VAT with the web portal of the KRA in real time. That's one example. If we go elsewhere, you have systems like Sidonia, which is made for customs. If you are in the logistic industry and you import, for example, cars for Japan, in some countries, there is a way to have total transparency as to what was the purchase price, what is the custom taxes you need to pay, all of that in a system. So it can integrate with your system, but also with the one of the government. But where I see things going in the future, we are in what we call the API, I would say, era, in which you can have your system and you connect it to the system of the government, to the system of your suppliers, so that you can have a data flow that is seamless and that doesn't require the input of a human. And this will allow us to work more efficiently, work at any time. You can send information to the web portal of the government without having to talk to someone.
Yes, but is there a fear that also that means businesses will have to be more transparent and that there will be less corruption then, especially when it comes to taxation and...
It is true. It is a real fear. But as you know, if you talk about taxation, they say tulipe ushuru tujitegemee, which is a good thing. If we just go side notes, if you don't pay your taxes, you will pay it in another way, either because you don't get the public services that you could have received if you were paying your taxes and so on. Transparency is good. It is a legal thing. So yes, it can be a problem if you are not working as per the rules. Yes. But it is the reality of companies.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Patrick, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Cynthia, for having me.
Well, that's it from us, from me and the rest of the team. We do want to wish you a very good night. Coming back with stories for you in just a couple of minutes. My director tells me that we are back on transition after this.
I'm here to fix your sewer.
Your ex? The two of you just get divorced.
I don't want him to misunderstand you.
Starting today, I'll only spend my own money. I don't want to care about what you think of me anymore.
Every decision you made. I thought about it last night. I didn't come up with a good reason to persuade you not to fire us. But you were not against it.
Mimi kefe chuma. Wewe chuma inatoka wapi? Wewe kama ulimi ni msito siwachane naye. Tumuite jina ingine.
Lakini wewe ni nini ya kusumbua?
Kwa nini?
Zilikuwa C4, zile za
C4 na kuruneti si kitu moja.
Guruneti ni guruneti.
Sikiza nikwambie mami. Unajua
tulijua ni guruneti ile inatumika kwa kware. Ilipolipuka mimi nikainuliwa juu, huyu mama kainuliwa juu, tukajipata tumelaliana in the new year.
Why do you want to suicide yourself?
Mimi hakuna pale nitaka kujisuicide.
Na kufungua mheshimiwa nikiwasha kumbe ilikuwa ni nuclear bomb mheshimiwa. Sikujua huyu nani mwingi amenihusia vitu ambaye it's not legit mheshimiwa.
Welcome back. The inaugural Nyanza Investment and Development Conference has officially kicked off in Kisumu, bringing together key stakeholders from the public and private sectors to explore investment opportunities in the region. Top government officials have underscored the vast potential in sectors such as the blue economy, education, and social protection. KBC senior editor Edward Kabasa is in Kisumu and has filed the following report for you.
The lakeside city of Kisumu is abuzz with activity as the much anticipated Nyanza Investment and Development Conference gets underway. The three-day event has attracted investors, government officials and industry players, all seeking to unlock the region's economic potential.
We believe strongly that the opportunities around the Nyanza region are enormous.
Deputy Chief of Staff Eliud Owalo emphasized the untapped potential of Lake Victoria, urging investors to explore opportunities in aquaculture, transport and tourism.
We want to facilitate, in partnership with the private sector, the establishment and operationalization of fish processing factories as a major intervention in the fish value chain.
Owalo's sentiments were echoed by stakeholders keen on positioning Nyanza as an economic hub beyond agriculture and trade.
It looks really wonderful to see a lot of people from different parts of the world coming to venture their projects and showcase, and we are there as well to show what we have to offer from Dubai.
Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Migosi Ogamba highlighted the role of education in driving economic growth, citing opportunities in research, vocational training and ICT integration.
These investments will help address the gaps that currently limit our ability to fully contribute to the national's industrialization and economic growth.
Beyond investment in infrastructure and trade, social protection remains a key pillar of economic growth. Social Protection Principal Secretary Joseph Mutari lauded the government initiatives such as the Inua Jamii program, which continues to uplift vulnerable groups across Nyanza.
In Nyanza alone, we do every month, we do over $1 billion to the Nyanza vulnerable people in this region of ours.
As deliberations continue, stakeholders remain optimistic that this conference will unlock fresh investment opportunities, driving socio-economic transformation in the region. For Prime Edition in Kisumu County, I am Edward Kabasa.
Thank you, Edward Kabasa, for that report. Now, a Milimani High Court has declared an executive order by President William Ruto establishing a task force to address human resource affairs in the health sector as unconstitutional. The same court, through Justice Bahati Mwamuye, has ruled that the decision to block demonstrations in Nairobi's central business district is unconstitutional, null, and void, stating the decision failed to meet the constitutional threshold.
Justice Bati Mwamuye, in quashing the executive order that established the task force, directed the Ministry of Health to fully implement the Kenya Health Human Resource Advisory Council within 30 days. The judge also rejected a request by the Council for the Ministry of Health and the task force to suspend his decision. The 20-member task force, which was established on July 5, 2024, was to serve a 6-month term. Similarly, Justice Mwamuye has ruled that the decision to block protests in Nairobi CBD is unconstitutional. In his ruling, Judge Mwamuye ruled that the directive violated the Constitution, citing such blanket restrictions undermine the freedoms guaranteed in the Constitution. The directive issued during the Gen Z's protest was challenged in court by Katiba Institute. Elsewhere in Kilifi, an investigating officer has testified in a 32 million fraud case involving 2 Italian nationals, Danielo Lococo and Massimo Nateve.
Article 2 of the Constitution, we are entitled to all evidence here before it's here.
As well with my right, okay? My right is, you told, you asked one wrong question.
The question calls for yes or no answer.
No, him need to specify why.
Testifying in court, Corporal Felix Oduya stated this investigation revealed the accused allegedly obtained millions of shillings from Rita Napo and Girola Fiorenzo between 2018 and 2021 by falsely claiming they could sublease villas in Watamu.
Proceeded to arrest the 2 accused persons before your court, Your Honor, on the 27th of April 2024.
The hearing of the case will continue on 27th and 20th February this year. Ruth Wamboi for Prime Edition.
Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi has made a clarion call to Kenyans to stand firm in protecting forest reserves and restoring of degraded lands. Mudavadi, who was speaking during the launch of the book 60 Years of Kenya's Environmental Diplomacy in Nairobi, noted that the world has been facing a triple planetary crisis, among them climate change, pollution and biodiversity loss.
With impacts of climate change becoming a global reality, Kenya an exceptional, a 2-day environmental diplomacy symposium that brings together global and local leaders kicked off in Nairobi.
And having successfully hosted major environmental conferences, including the African Climate Summit in September 2023, Kenya has shown its dedication towards this noble agenda.
The event aims at looking for ways of tackling the impacts of climate change in a global space.
Kenya is a focal advocate for the reform on multilateral development banks, MDBs, to restructure climate finance, to respond to the needs of African nations which are disproportionately affected by climate change.
Diaspora and Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary, who doubles up as Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, who graced the meeting, noted that Kenya's foreign policy is leveraging on its natural resources, biodiversity, and commitment to sustainable development.
The world needs suitable policy options for land restoration, drought resilience, and green transition through people-centered approaches that address all facets of drought issues.
Kenya is also implementing an ambitious restoration program. And through the National Landscape and Restoration Strategy, we aim to grow 15 billion trees, thereby restoring 10.6 million hectares of our land by 2032.
He said participation in multilateral agreements displays a proactive commitment in not only boosting diplomatic relations, but also fighting impacts of climate change.
The world must take corrective actions, without which a catastrophic sixth mass extinction event could occur in the not too distant future.
1-0.
Mudavadi was speaking during the launch of the book 60 Years of Kenya's Environmental Diplomacy that gives insights of the milestone that the country has so far achieved in the environmental arena. Opicho Chemtai for Prime Edition.
More than 3 million people in low and middle income countries die each year as a result of lack of access of essential medicine. According to the CEO, Emmanuel Akwaku, the trend poses a threat to the health of patients in need of the essential drugs. Financial constraints and systematic inefficiencies were also cited as factors that also deny users of life-saving treatment.
According to ACTMED organization, at least 3.5 million deaths in low and middle income countries are attributed to lack of access to proper and efficient medication. Speaking during the ACTMED inaugural summit in Nairobi, the organization's CEO Emmanuel Akwaku said the trend calls for urgent and radical collaboration of both government and private healthcare partners to fill the existing gaps.
We've seen patients go without, especially in cases where those diseases could lead to very difficult outcomes. So our goal is very simple. Make sure that we can showcase the full strength of demand that comes not just from the African continent, but across every low and middle income country. But of course, charity begins at home, and so we're starting here.
Further, the organization revealed that 1 in 10 medicines are counterfeit, resulting to inconsistent treatment outcomes, which further jeopardize patients' health.
Counterfeit and substandard medicines have been a pain for a lot of patients and a lot of providers living on our continent, but also across low and middle income countries.
No single entry can tackle this complex challenge alone. We must adopt a collective approach that brings together government, the private sector, civil society, in innovative partnerships.
Women rights crusaders led by representatives from the Office of the President's Advisor on Women Rights, Harriet Chigai, noted safety and quality care in health facilities and enhancing health literacy among people in the underserved regions is key in reducing maternal deaths.
Women and girls also bear the brunt of unpaid caregiving responsibilities, limiting their ability to seek timely medical care and afford medicines. Chronic shortages of medical supplies and personnel, particularly in rural hospitals, further exacerbate their crisis. These facilities struggle to meet the growing demand of basic health care services, leading to congestion and delays in service delivery.
Health Cabinet Secretary Deborah Baraza, who graced the inaugural summit, said the government is adopting key strategies such as pool procurement in support for local manufacturing of medical supplies to strengthen the country's health system and minimize stockouts.
Through pooled procurement, we harness the collective purchasing power of health institutions to negotiate better prices, ensure superior quality, and minimize stockouts. This approach enables more efficient resource allocation, allowing us to reinvest in critical areas such as disease prevention, infrastructure development, and primary healthcare services.
John Kahiro, Prime Edition.
Welcome back. It's now time for business. Banks that do not reduce lending rates to reflect the lower central bank rate face fines of up to 300 million shillings. Central Bank of Kenya Governor Dr. Kamau Thuge says the regulator has commenced a physical inspection of 5 commercial banks to identify those failing to reduce the cost of credit. The inspection follows concerns by Central Bank over the slow pace at which commercial banks have been lowering interest rates on loans.
The Central Bank of Kenya has progressively reduced the base lending rate by 225 basis points from a high of 13% in June last year to the current 10.7%. However, the regulator is concerned that commercial banks have been slow in passing down this benefit to borrowers. This has prompted the regulator to conduct physical inspections to ensure banks are implementing the risk-based pricing model to lower borrowing costs, support business expansion, and stimulate economic growth.
We have started with the on-site inspections. I think we have staff now working on the. We started with the 5 banks, and that should be completed within the next 2 weeks or so. So nobody has been fined yet. Obviously, we have to wait and see the results.
Dr. Thuge says non-compliant banks will face penalties.
Penalties have also been increased from 2 million to 20 million, and there's a provision now to charge the banks by the penalty to be 3 times how much the individual banks have benefited by. So if they benefit by 100 million shillings, they will be fined 3 times that, which is 300 million shillings.
The action by the Central Bank of Kenya is aimed at supporting private sector activity to drive economic growth, even as he projects the economy to expand 5.4% this year. Dr. Thuge says the central bank is in talks with 13 banks whose core capital is below 3 billion shillings to progressively increase to a minimum of 10 billion shillings. Wairi Mujenga for Prime Edition.
The government is exploring floating an initial public offering for the Kenya Pipeline Company to raise funds to finance diversification into liquefied petroleum gas and expansion into the East and Central African region. National Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi says listing Kenya Pipeline Company shares will enable it to realize the benefits that will accrue from the stock exchange.
The Kenya Pipeline Company has had plans to extend the existing petroleum products pipeline from Eldoret to Kampala to serve as a key infrastructure project that will significantly impact the region's fuel import market. In addition, Kenya Pipeline Company plans to enhance capacity on some of the existing pipelines to meet growing and projected demand. And with the increasing demand for liquid petroleum gas, the parastatal has been angling out to diversify into that business. However, all these plans require capital to bring them to fruition. To raise the money, National Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi says the government is exploring listing Kenya Pipeline Company shares on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. And I quote, "We have this feeling that KPC needs to realize the benefits that will accrue from a listing at the stock exchange," end of quote. Said Mbadi, who cited Safaricom and KenGen as among the corporates that have reaped the benefits from listing on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Kenya Pipeline Company is among several state-owned enterprises that the government has been keen to privatize. The others are Kenyatta International Convention Center, the New Kenya Cooperative Creameries, Kenya Seed Company Limited, National Oil Corporation of Kenya, Kenya Literature Bureau, Western Kenya Rice Mills Limited, Numerical Machining Complex, and Mwea Rice Mills Limited. The 5 state-owned sugar companies, namely Nzoia, South Nyanza, Muhoroni, Shemelil and Miwani, are also expected to be privatized to reduce their reliance on the exchequer for funding as well as expand and modernize their plants. Alan Auko, Prime Edition.
The Competition Authority of Kenya says the high cost of animal feed in the country is due to unfair pricing by major feed millers and feed raw material suppliers. CAC's Policy and Research Manager Ninette Mwareni says major manufacturers collude with suppliers to hoard raw materials, edging out small-scale processors, hence reducing competition in the animal feed subsector. This has been local farmers pay upwards of 3 billion above the global average prices.
Kenya sources soya meal and sunflower cake, main component of animal feed, from Zambia, Malawi, Tanzania and Uganda. Despite inputs to animal feed being abundantly available in the region, feed prices have been high, making local poultry, dairy and other livestock products uncompetitive. An inquiry on feed prices by the Competition Authority of Kenya says 4 companies control the market, have integrated supplies into their operations. This, the authority says, has starved small-scale feed processors of raw materials, forcing them to close shop due to high input costs.
Obviously, negatively impact the final product price, which then, of course, comes down to the consumer buying expensive meat, expensive eggs. So that is one of the considerations.
There are a number of intermediaries in the supply of inputs whose operations are opaque, and this impacts on the final price of animal feeds.
Price fixing has seen local farmers pay 3 billion shillings annually above the global average price.
And in fact, we compared these prices with the prices in Malaysia, where there was a cartel in animal feeds. So our prices are still higher, even when we compare with prices under a cartel market condition.
The authority is planning to institute anti-competitive measures, including setting prices for key animal feed ingredients such as soya meal and sunflower cake to be at par with global prices.
The authority will enhance its enforcement tools in order to deal with some of the anti-competitive issues that were noted in the report.
County governments have been encouraged to revise their tax regimes and exempt animal feeds from levy to reduce feed cost in the country. Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
Shilingi 1,000. Toka kwa hiyo sanduku. Stoki. Kizongwe mkuri. Rudisha hiyo pesa kwa sanduku namba 10.
Ongeza ifike 50.
Kwa nini? Anataka ukule popcorn ukitizama runinga, sawa? 100,000 Kenya shillings. Inch TV. 1,000 Kenya shillings. Yes!
Differently. Mental health should also be a basic need to the PWDs because they go through a lot. Those who have acquired disability, please love them.
Don't sympathize with us, just empathize with us. Before you say I cannot do anything, just try me. Give me a shot.
Oh why, oh why, oh why, oh why, 'cause we're differently.
Welcome back. An artificial intelligence chat box that will provide smallholder farmers in underserved communities with real-time and relevant farming best practices is being piloted ahead of its countrywide rollout. The pilot, involving 1,000 smallholder farmers, is aligned with the potato crop cycle.
The introduction of artificial intelligence in the agriculture sector is aimed at equipping farmers with data-driven advice to optimize productivity. Safaricom, in partnership with global NGO Opportunity International, have launched Farmer AI in Kenya, an innovative AI chatbot. The tool works by incorporating generative AI with localized agricultural insights, delivering vital information on topics like weather patterns, fertilizer application, pest management, and market prices through accessible channels such as SMS and WhatsApp.
This is the first solution we're bringing to customers and specifically farmers that enables them to interact with AI and really feel the power of that technology in the same way that you and I are experiencing it today.
The rollout of the platform will help reduce the barriers to sustainable agricultural practices, helping farmers reduce costs and increase yields.
We're providing the underlying technology, the platform, and the AI tool itself.
And we're working very collaboratively with the Digifarm team to design that technology in a way that it's valuable. And then Digifarm provides that connection to the farmers.
The pilot phase targeting smallholder potato farmers will be undertaken until August this year, then expanded to other areas in the country. Ndutamo Kami for Prime Edition.
Everstrong Capital, a U.S.-based infrastructure investment firm, has started raising capital and restructuring partners for construction of the 440 kilometers four-lane dual carriageway between Nairobi and Mombasa. Everstrong Capital has appointed CPF Capital and Advisory to lead fundraising efforts for the 450 billion shillings project. CPF Capital and Advisory CEO Hosea Kimtai says the deal involves raising about 130 billion shillings for the project that is expected to enhance trade, reduce travel time and unlock economic opportunities.
The whole industry, the local banks, insurance companies are going to be invited to give their views on how they want the infrastructure bond to be prepared for them. Finally, the owners of capital, the insurance companies, the pension funds, Islamic finance, and all of them are going to now uptake. Whatever they cannot uptake will be taken to the region.
Project pays for itself. This project does not go on the balance sheet of the Kenyan government. The Kenyan government is not taking any debt on this. We're not obligating the Kenyan government for this. This is a true public-private partnership, 30-year asset. This is the way most roads like this are built in the United States.
The fact that we're going to bring investors from the United States, from the Middle East, from Europe, South Africa, all coming together to be investors and lenders into this marquee project.
It also allows for the investment of funds that will guarantee pensioners a good retirement. For us at the exchange, we are very excited because it adds to the products a new bond that will be able to flow to the public.
From automated sliding curtains to cameras that send you messages wherever you are, homeowners are turning to automated smart home solutions in a bid to save energy costs and improve security of their dwellings. Tonight on Tech One, we take a look at what this tech craze is all about.
For example, I have a system over here. The system is wireless.
Behold the world of an automated house.
And control the entire house from here.
From wireless cameras to spatial speakers and automated switches, these are the devices that are powering the house of the future, thanks to the concept of the Internet of Things, or IoTs.
So there is the lounge or the family room area, there is a kitchen area, and there is, of course, a bedroom on the other side. So different zones for lighting. But besides that, when we talk of a smart home, is an intelligent home whereby all your low voltage devices are speaking one language.
Kevin Nyota and Abubakar Swale from Audiovisual Control Systems show us how a typical home setup is controlled from a single point, such as your mobile phone.
It comes on, and I can also just put it off. There is a speaker here, so I can say, let's say, the music to come on. So it's just mimicking that there is an active thing that is going on. So it literally comes on. And now we go to lights themselves individually. So there is a floor lamp, which is this one here. It's here externally here. So if I say the lamp to come on, it comes on. But I can also dim it. So right now it's 100%. I can dim it to, let's say, that is 20%. Yeah. Besides that, I can also, let me just put it 100%, and I can change the color temperature on it Right now is warm white. I can switch to daylight, and then the color changes.
As much as they are connected to the same circuit, I can control one fitting at a time. So if, say that, and I just want to control this particular fitting over here, so all I do is just turn this on. So this one, it will be on, and then if I want to increase the intensity, I will increase the intensity.
Consumers who have used this technology speak of savings and convenience and what the government could do to make such systems available for Kenyans from all backgrounds.
Maybe to make the business environment better, the issue of taxes, if they could be looked at, because a lot of people or a lot of things become expensive when there is a lot of taxes that accumulate to that. So the government could help in that way.
Technology's contribution to the country's gross domestic product grew by an average of 9.9% in 2022, making it the second fastest growing sector after the hospitality industry.
The Internet of Things is taking the world by storm, and Kenya is not being left behind, with audio-visual systems totally automated coming devolved into your household like this one. Alanauko, take one.
We are still waiting for Alan Oko to come back to work. Shareholders of listed electricity generator KenGen will not pocket any interim dividend despite the firm reporting 79% increase in first half net profit. KenGen has reported 5.3 billion shillings in net profit during the first 6 months period to 31st of December 2024, up from 2.96 billion shillings that the listed firm reported during a similar period the previous year. The profit was mainly powered by lower operating expenses that reduced 13.7% to 17.7 billion shillings.
KenGen saw its revenue during the 6-month period to December 2024 reduced by 1 billion shillings to 27.5 billion shillings. This was despite supplied electricity increasing to 4,291 gigawatt hours from 4,211 gigawatt hours the previous year. The firm's income was lifted by a 13.7% reduction in operating expenses to 17.6 billion shillings that KenGen attributes to cost optimization strategies and efficiency enhancements in power generation plants. In addition, KenGen booked higher finance income and lower finance costs. Despite the 79% increase in profit to 5.3 billion shillings, KenGen has not posted any interim dividend payout to shareholders. The electricity generator is banking on growing its renewable energy portfolio and innovation to fuel expansion in the evolving energy landscape that is currently driven by a focus on green energy. KenGen says it targets to add 194.4 megawatts from the ongoing geothermal, solar and hydro power plants. The firm projects to avail 200 megawatt hours of battery energy storage. In its report, KenGen says peak demand has increased from the previous 2,208 megawatts to 2,305 megawatts that was recorded on 15th of last month. Nduta Mokami for Prime Edition.
Mmelipwa.
Umbea utakumaliza wewe.
Hii story imesambaa kila mahali.
Na ni ngapi?
Ni plani yetu. Tafaulu kweli.
It has to.
The number cannot be reached now.
Ama majina ikianza kuchimba, atachimbua mpaka apate majibu.
Either way, Jenny need some time.
Umebonga naye?
Tumeongea naye na sawa kabisa.
Na yuko wapi? Huyu si ni Jenny? Hizi picha zinatusaidia nini? Kwa hivyo wako pamoja na Trish.
Anza kukaa kama mwanaume juu uangalie boma yetu.
I'll do anything to protect you and this family.
Mimi sina saa za madingo na wasoro.
Nitakupepeta wewe.
I want to know where my daughter is, who she is with, and why.
وبحجبها بتتباهى
Kutafuta moyo mwingine kwa sababu moyo wako tayari ushakufa. Yaani unapaswa kutekeleza ibada ambazo zitaweza kuhuisha moyo wako.
Anakaa lisali moja tu yeye yuacheka tu, subhanallah. Mtume anasema usifanye vile, hakika mtu kithirisha kucheka inauua moyo wa mwanadamu.
Swala zote na salamu zimfikie Hashimu.
A very good evening to you. My name is Daniel Wahome and welcome to Prime Edition Sports. Now, renovation works at the Kasarani Stadium will be completed by the end of April, 3 months to the postponed 2024 African Nations Championships CHAN, which will be co-hosted by Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania. Kasarani, together with Nyayo, will not only host the African Nations Championship, but the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations as well.
The second phase of renovations at the Kasarani Stadium is almost complete, with the Ministry of Sports laying down the month of April as the date for the completion of the stadium. The relayed playing surface is at its best and 99% of the sitting stands has been fitted with seats. Final touches are now being put on the stadium that has its lighting system working at 100%. The Ministry of Sports, the CHAN Local Organizing Committee, CAF and FKF officials today toured the Kasarani Stadium as they keep abreast on the progress of the renovation.
We want to test the pitches, Nyayo and this one, plus the training pitches also. So this team, at the end of the day tomorrow, will have come with fixtures that will ensure that then we've tested just before CAF come and do their last round of inspection.
The postponement to August of the African Nation Championships, earlier scheduled for February, provided enough time for completion of Phase 2 of the Kasarani Stadium that will now match the international standards to host both the 2024 CHAN and the Africa Cup of Nations.
We are asking ourselves two questions. How do we ensure that 10 years, 20 years down the line, this stadium still remains like this? And that is why now when you look at the LOC engagement that they are doing at this particular moment is to see how we can bring in the private sector. And you see that is the direction this ministry is going, to ensure that we work together and maintain this stadium to the standard that we've put as government.
Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Sports, Engineer Peter Tum, who led the touring delegation, emphasized on the importance of having the sporting facilities in Kenya in good condition, as they are the foundation of talent development.
We are doing this stadium not for AFCON only, not for CHAN only, but for posterity. Because as a government, we are not looking at the beauty of the stadium alone. We are looking at the talent that we want to create, nurture, and monetize at the end of the day from the infrastructure development that we are doing.
The African Nation Championship, a football tournament for local-based players only, will be played from the 2nd to 30th of August this year, while the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations will be played in June and July across 9 venues in Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania.
Barclay for that report. Now, over 500 elite and emerging athletes are expected to compete in the National Cross Country Championships, set to be held this Saturday at the Eldoret Sports Club. The local organizing committee anticipates a highly competitive event with participants from across the country. They emphasize that the choice of Eldoret is intentional, as the county is known for its deep passion for athletics, with residents expected to turn out in large numbers to support the athletes. The competition will feature 4 events, which are the 6-kilometer and 8-kilometer races for junior men and women, and the 10-kilometer races for senior men and women. All the top 10 winners in different categories will be rewarded with cash prizes, with the winners of the 10-kilometer races pocketing 200,000 Kenya shillings, the runners-up 130,000 Kenya shillings, while the third-placed athletes will go home with 100,000 shillings. This will mark the 3rd time that Eldoret City hosts the National Cross Country Championships, following previous event held at the Eldoret Sports Club in 2019 and at the Lobo Village in Kapseret in 2022.
Every year. I know the national was done here once. This is the 2nd time. But we have had the discovery race, which has been happening here. And through that discovery race, we have been able to identify some slight things we need to change. You can see even the hills, the man-made hills which are there. They are very green. there are more. And these are the challenges which a cross-country requires.
Now, Kenya's Premier Sevens Rugby tournament, the Safari Sevens, will return to Nairobi this year from the 10th to the 12th of October. The annual tournament was held outside Nairobi for the first time last year when the Kenya Rugby Union moved it to Machakos County. The National Sevens Rugby men's team Shujaa are the defending champions after they beat Shogun 12-0 in the finals, while the Lionesses, on the other hand, were the runners-up in the women's tournament after they were beaten 24-10 in the finals by Costa Blanca Barbarians. This year's Safari Sevens will be the 27th edition since its inception in 1996. In the meantime, Shujaa and the Lionesses are preparing for the World Rugby Sevens and Challenger Series respectively, with the men's team scheduled to depart next week for the Vancouver Sevens, scheduled for the 21st to the 23rd of this month. Now, Sharkia Hockey Club will play Aircraft Factory tomorrow in an all-Egyptian final as the 2025 Africa Cup 4 Clubs Champions comes to an end tomorrow in Ismailia, Egypt. The Ghana Revenue Authority will play Smuha Club of Egypt in the women's final. Sharkia topped Pool A in the men's standings with 9 points after edging Port Fuad with a 1-goal difference, and will face Aircraft, who topped Pool B with 12 points. GRA topped Pool A in the women's standings with 12 points, and they will meet Smuha, who finished first in Pool B with 9 points. Sikh Union of Kenya will play Egypt's Port Fuad in the men's third-place playoff, while Mombasa Sports Club will meet Kada Queens of Nigeria in the women's fight for bronze. And the Kenya Sports Shooting Federation is holding a 4-day competition at the Laikipia Air Base Rifle Range in Nanyuki for preparations for the 86th Kenya Open Full Bore competition scheduled for March this year. The child shooting competition has brought together shooters from different forces, namely the Kenya Defence Forces, the National Police Service, and the Kenya Regiment Rifle Club, who are covering distances of 300 to 900 meters. The Kenya ISSF Sports Champion Priscilla Mburu said they are anticipating a good shoot as they prepare for the eagerly awaited Kenya Open Full Bore Shooting Championship, where they will be hosting the Royal Air Force from the United Kingdom from the 2nd to the 8th of March at the same venue.
Problem tena kuitoa hapo.
And also we have a very big challenge kwa sababu ya wind and mirage and factors like those hapa kwa range kama mlivyoona. The wind is too harsh, the sun is too harsh. So we're doing our level best.
And Newcastle United sealed their spot in the Carabao Cup final when they eliminated Arsenal 4-0 on aggregate in a 10 semi-final second leg played at St James's Park. The Newcastle led 2-0 from the first leg to double their lead in the return leg. Jacob Murphy catalysed Newcastle United's win in the 16th minute a few minutes later after Martin Odegaard missed a chance for Arsenal. Anthony Gordon cemented Arsenal's fate in the 52nd minute. Newcastle will face either defending champions Liverpool or Tottenham Hotspur in the finals that are scheduled for the 16th of March at Wembley. The two teams meet tonight in the second semi-final, where Liverpool trail by a solitary goal and look forward to overturning that deficit in front of their home fans at Anfield. And so that's the sport for tonight. Lots to follow up tomorrow, including the Amateur African Championship in golf that's taking place in South Africa, the build-up to the National Cross Country Championships. That's part of what we're looking out for this weekend. Have a good one. My name is Daniel Wahome. Back to you, Cynthia.
Thank you, Wahome, for updating us on the sports world. For me and the rest of the team, we do want to wish you a very good night.
shilingi 1000. Toka kwa hiyo sanduku. Stoki. Oh. Kizongwe mkuri. Rudisha hiyo pesa kwa sanduku namba 10.
Ongeza ifike 50.
Kwa nini? Anataka ukule popcorn ukitizama runinga, sawa? 100,000